Hey everyone! Today we're exploring another chilling and disturbing case. If you'd like to support the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay engaged. It really means a lot. I truly appreciate it. Now, take a deep breath and let's dive in. Flight 262 took off from Buenos Aires at 11:18 a.m. on a bright Tuesday morning. It was a full flight, 129 passengers. For crew, no anomalies, no alerts, no warnings. But somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, it vanished. What happened in the sky that day would haunt investigators, tear apart a family, and expose a powerful religious figure living a double life. One filled with lust, money, murder, and a terrifying secret he would kill to protect. Daniela Soares, 34, was a rising star environmental lawyer. A single mother of two and former wife of Pastor Elias Soares, she had just won full custody after a bitter 3-year legal war with the charismatic religious leader of the Church of Divine Glory. A church worth over $40 million in real estate donations and divine investments. Daniela claimed Elias was a manipulative narcissist, obsessed with control, and masking his real self behind a pulpit. She told friends she was being followed. She installed cameras in her car. She started using burner phones. But her final act was the most drastic of all. She bought a ticket under a false name, Lucia Andrade, and boarded Flight 262 bound for Sao Paulo. She was leaving the country for good, or so she thought. 3 hours after takeoff, Flight 262 disappeared from radar without issuing any distress signal. Initial theories pointed to catastrophic failure, but air traffic logs showed something alarming. The transponder was turned off manually. Flight 262 wasn't on its expected route. Its last known location was over a restricted zone above the Atlantic, an area known for illegal trafficking and black site airstrips. The plane, the passengers, and the wreckage, gone. Public mourning erupted. Memorials were held. Elias stood at the altar days later and said, "They were taken to heaven." That flight was not a tragedy. It was divine judgment. But behind the scenes, he had already filed an insurance claim, not just for Daniela, but for 3 others on the flight, all employees of his church, each with separate million-dollar life insurance policies listing him as the beneficiary. Daniela's sister Marina wasn't convinced. Days before the flight, Daniela had left her a handwritten note. "If I disappear, look at Elias. Don't believe what they tell you." Private investigators discovered shocking evidence. Daniela had met with a whistleblower who worked security for the church. The man claimed the church had a fleet of unregistered vehicles, backdoor ties to airfield operators in Colombia and Brazil, and a hidden vault containing documents about the dead that aren't really dead. Then came the church security footage. In it, Elias is seen in the early morning hours after the disappearance of Flight 262, burning boxes of documents, flanked by 2 men later identified as ex-military turned bodyguards. More chilling was a recovered voicemail from Daniela the night before the flight. "I think they know. He knows. If anything happens, tell my kids I tried. I really tried." A whistleblower from within the aviation company that handled Flight 262's cargo finally spoke. She revealed the plane had an unauthorized crate, labeled humanitarian aid, loaded last minute by a private company tied to a shell corporation owned by Elias Soares' church. The manifest was faked. The crate's contents were unknown, and the pilot, Rodrigo Valles, was a retired Air Force captain personally baptized by Elias himself. And then, 24 days later, a blurry satellite image emerged. A plane landed in the middle of the rainforest. Same model as Flight 262. No official landing ever recorded. Authorities sent a small team to the coordinates. They reached the clearing. The plane was gone, but what they found buried beneath the mud was far worse. They found a row of graves, fresh, marked only with symbols, crosses carved into wood. But when they exhumed the bodies, none of them were passengers on Flight 262. And then inside a rotting crate buried nearby, they found a blood-soaked airline seatbelt and Daniela's missing passport. The bodies found in the rainforest were all male. None matched any of the 129 people listed on Flight 262's manifest. They were later identified as hired mercenaries, each with criminal pasts, fake IDs, and ties to a paramilitary group Elias had funded under the guise of spiritual protection services. The jungle location was just 8 kilometers from a compound, fenced, heavily guarded, and unlisted on any official map. Satellite surveillance showed people moving inside, women, children, armed guards, and in the center, a small chapel with a massive golden cross on the roof. The inscription? Property of the Divine Glory Church. Entry by blessing only. A drone flew overhead one night and captured something terrifying. A Boeing 737 tail section, overgrown with vines, sitting behind a steel hangar. It had the exact tail number of Flight 262. Days later, authorities intercepted a man crossing into Ecuador with a false passport and burn injuries on both legs. He claimed to be Felipe Marquez, a passenger from Flight 262. At first, officials thought he was delusional until his fingerprints matched a missing person from Flight Manifest. Felipe's story? Unimaginable. We didn't crash. We were drugged. As soon as the plane was in the air, masked men came out from the cockpit with guns. They said we were chosen. They separated us. Those who resisted were taken to the back of the plane. We never saw them again. They told us the world had ended, that we had survived Judgment Day, and that our new lives belonged to God's prophet, to Elias. Felipe said he was forced to live in the jungle compound for nearly a month, under heavy sedation, constant reprogramming, and religious indoctrination. He told us we were reborn, but we weren't free. We were prisoners. As Felipe's testimony circulated, prosecutors raided the Church of Divine Glory's global offices. What they uncovered blew open the case. $27 million in offshore accounts, all linked to rescue missions and ascension services. Videos of private sermons where Elias declared the government was satanic, and that only those who followed him could escape the end times. A secret ascension list naming dozens of followers who paid to be taken to the next realm. And finally, a second passenger manifest for Flight 262, this one handwritten with certain names crossed out, including Daniela's. But the most chilling discovery came from a locked vault underneath Elias's private prayer room. Inside was a blood-streaked book with the inscription, Flight 262, the First Harvest. The revelations caused international outrage. The aviation company that chartered Flight 262 was shut down. 3 government officials were arrested for accepting bribes to falsify flight routes. And several high-profile religious figures publicly denounced Elias, while secretly being investigated for participating in his ascension program. Daniela's children were taken into protective custody. Her sister Marina made a public plea. My sister didn't die in a plane crash. She was hunted for telling the truth. And Elias, he vanished hours before the raid on his compound. He escaped by helicopter into the jungle with 6 followers, all armed, and carrying what investigators now believe was the church's emergency cash fund, estimated at over $12 million. 2 weeks later, deep in the rainforest, authorities made another discovery, a second compound, recently abandoned, signs of animal sacrifice, walls painted in blood, and a makeshift altar with 129 candles, all burning. At the center of the altar was a note. Flight 262 has landed in paradise. Do not follow, or you will burn with the world. As authorities combed to the abandoned jungle compound, investigators recovered journals, footage, and doctrine materials authored by Elias Soares, founder of the Church of Divine Glory. What they discovered painted a terrifying portrait of mass psychological manipulation rooted in doomsday prophecy, scriptural distortion, and apocalyptic fetishism, according to his teachings. The modern world was infected with spiritual parasites, corrupt governments, lawyers, and women who challenged male authority, like Daniela. He claimed that Flight 262 was a vessel of purification, and only those chosen by him would survive the collapse. A global event he prophesied would begin with fire in the skies and silence on the ground. Elias's journals were littered with numbers, symbols, and diagrams, but one passage stood out. 129 souls offered to the fire. 7 will rise again. The rest must die in the body to be reborn in glory. Who were the 7 he intended to save? And where were the others? Weeks later, a woman was found wandering barefoot near the Colombian border. Her body was bruised, her tongue partially cut. Her wrists bore deep ligature scars. Her name was Adriana Del Rey, 25, and she was listed on the manifest of Flight 262 as Miss Del Rey, honeymoon class. In her statement, spoken through tears and a hoarse whisper, she recalled the day of the flight. "I thought we were going to Sao Paulo. I was getting married the next week. But when we were in the air, something changed. The air turned cold. The flight attendants stopped smiling. They locked the doors. When we landed, we were taken, separated. I was told I'd been chosen to be a bride of the prophet." She recounted 4 sedations, chanting rituals, sexual assault, and indoctrination sessions where they were told their families were dead and only Elias could offer them salvation. She tried to escape once and was punished. Her tongue was partially severed to ensure she wouldn't testify. Interpol officially listed Elias Soares as a fugitive under international warrant. Last seen, boarding a private helicopter with 6 armed followers and 2 large crates marked sacred documents. The jungle terrain made the manhunt near impossible. But intelligence agencies now believe he's operating out a network of safe houses in remote parts of Brazil, Paraguay, and Venezuela, some of which were paid for using congregant donations disguised as charity funds. A former cult member came forward and said something chilling. He's not hiding. He's preparing. He believes another flight is coming. Another harvest. He said Flight 263 will be the final one. In the burned journal pages recovered from Elias's bunker, there was one passage marked with Daniela's real name. "The serpent must be silenced. Her mouth drips poison. She was once my Eve, but now she tempts others from the garden. Her death will sanctify the sky." Authorities now believe Daniela wasn't just a casualty. She was a target. Her decision to go public with abuse allegations, financial corruption, and hidden crimes inside the church threatened to destroy everything Elias built. He used the flight as a way to eliminate her and mask it as tragedy. But according to Felipe, the male survivor from Part 2, he saw her in the jungle compound days after the plane landed. She was alive, locked in a steel container. I don't know what they did to her after that. Then came the video. Anonymous, untraceable, sent to a journalist covering the case. It showed a woman chained in a dark room, barely conscious. A voice off camera whispered, "The world lied. She never died. The harvest isn't over." And on her chest, scrawled in blood, was a date, August 8th, 2025. The same date Flight 263 is now scheduled to depart. The video sent to investigative journalist Ana Morales was only 43 seconds long. A dim room, faint chanting in the background. A woman, disoriented, bound by chains, with bruises on her arms and dry blood on her mouth. Though the face was obscured, forensic experts confirmed what Daniela's sister already knew. That's her. That's my sister. She's alive. But perhaps the most chilling detail, behind her on the wall was a hand-drawn map, and circled in red, a small airfield in Venezuela. Below it, the words, August 8, 25 Flight 263, glory above all. Interpol, aviation authorities, and anti-cult task forces immediately mobilized. Flight 263, a real charter flight owned by Soul Air International, had a scheduled departure date of August 8, 2025, only 24 days away. The airline had recently been purchased by a shell company called Zion Redeemed, which was traced back to an offshore account once used by the Church of Divine Glory. And the pilot listed on the manifest? Rodrigo Valles, the same ex-military pilot from Flight 262, believed to be dead, now confirmed alive, and still flying. Anonymous sources leaked a partial list of those ticketed to board Flight 263. The names had something in common. Former members of Elias's church who had left or gone silent. Whistleblowers. Estranged family members of previous passengers. One high-profile journalist, Ana Morales. When Ana tried to cancel her ticket, she was told, "You've already been paid for. There are no refunds, only redemption." Each of the passengers had been insured without their knowledge. Life insurance policies in the millions, all tied to the same entity, Zion redeemed. This wasn't a flight. It was a harvest. What really happened to Daniela? Felipe, the first survivor, saw her at the jungle compound. Adriana, the cult bride, believed she'd been set aside for something called the final offering. And now, the video suggests she's being held for a ritual tied to the second ascension. But there's more. Investigators found letters in Elias's personal journal written to Daniela after her presumed death. You are the gate, the serpent and the key. Your death will bring light. Your life will bring war. The doctrine makes it clear. Daniela is both sacrifice and symbol, the defier of Elias's power, and the one who must be broken to fulfill his prophecy. But why keep her alive? Unless the next flight isn't just about ascension, it's about public spectacle. On July 14th, satellite imaging picked up movement in the Venezuelan rainforest. The compound, once abandoned, was now fully reactivated. Bright lights, multiple aircraft parked on makeshift runways, armed patrols, and what appears to be a massive white tent with an open-air stage inside, adorned with giant cross burning at its peak. From the air, they could see seating arranged in rows, like an audience was expected. This wasn't a retreat. It was a ceremony. And then, early this morning, July 15th, a shocking new message was broadcast on a hijacked Christian live stream across 5 countries. The image? A man cloaked in white, standing in front of the burning cross. He removes a hood. It's Elias soars. To the blind, Flight 262 was a tragedy. To the faithful, it was ascension. And to the disobedient, Flight 263 will be the final fire. Behind him, a figure was dragged forward, face bruised, hands bound. A woman. It was Daniela, and her final scream echoed to the live stream before it cut to black. Please, don't let them put me on the P after Elias Soares hijacked a live stream to show the world that Daniela was still alive. Interpol, FBI, Brazilian Federal Police, and Colombian Special Ops formed a multinational strike force to shut down the cult's jungle compound. Codename, Operation Groundfall. Objective, raid the Venezuelan site before August 8, 2025, the scheduled departure flight 263. But time wasn't the only threat. The compound was protected by ex-paramilitary and mercenaries, homemade anti-aircraft devices, trip mines, and most disturbingly, hundreds of brainwashed followers, many of whom believe death is salvation. One agent described the terrain as not just a fortress, a suicide church. If they think they're being invaded, they won't run, they'll light themselves on fire. Inside Elias's seized teachings was a horrifying new prophecy called the Final Harvest. According to the doctrine, Flight 262 was a cleansing, Flight 263 is a consuming, and Daniela, referred to as the gate, must be sacrificed midair to release the light of God upon the earth. But investigators now believe this is cover for mass murder and digital terrorism. One chilling theory: Flight 263 will be live-streamed. The mass death of the passengers, a global spectacle, meant to ignite panic, draw new recruits, and forever enshrine Elias as a martyr prophet. Then came the breakthrough. A recording was recovered from a listening device smuggled into the compound by a defecting cult member posing as a follower. The voice is weak but unmistakable. If anyone's hearing this, I'm still here. Please, they're going to put me on a plane. They say it's for God, but it's for him. He wants to be remembered forever. This isn't salvation, it's revenge. She breathes heavily. Tell Marina, tell my children I never stopped fighting. The final whisper? He keeps calling me Eve, but I was never his. 3 days before the raid, a digital activist group known as White Knight leaked a disturbing discovery. The entire flight plan for Flight 263. Departure. August 8, 2025, 10:16 a.m., from an unregistered airstrip deep in the Orinoco Delta. Route: over international waters with no official airspace registration. Destination: none. The plan shows the aircraft will circle for 6 hours, then descend into the fire. A coded message at the bottom reads, "The world will witness the rebirth, through smoke, through flame, through her." With only days left, Operation Groundfall faces major obstacles. The jungle is flooding from heavy rainfall, making roads impassable. Elias has gone completely underground, no longer appearing in person, only through pre-recorded audio sermons played through loudspeakers at the compound. And perhaps most disturbingly, hundreds more people are arriving. Photos show buses of people pouring into the area. Men, women, families. Some of them carrying one-way tickets. Some of them wearing white robes. July 29, 2025, 2:03 a.m. A drone flies over the compound and captures footage of the aircraft, Flight 263, being fueled and prepared. Standing near the plane is a woman in white, her wrists bound in front of her. It's Daniela, but she looks up right at the drone's blinking light and mouths something. The footage is silent, but lip readers agree she says, "One more chance. Tonight. Come now or it's over." Lane. July 30th, 2025, 3:28 a.m. 37 elite operatives from 5 countries deploy by helicopter and foot under the cover of night. Their mission: extract Daniela, neutralize threats, and shut down Flight 263 before it ever leaves the ground. Satellite imaging confirmed the aircraft had been moved to a newly built hangar surrounded by armed guards, watchtowers, and religious symbols painted in blood. The last known drone footage showed Daniela chained outside the plane, flanked by white-robed followers, singing what experts identified as the Song of Burning Light, a chant Elias had referenced as the Hymn of Ascension. At 4:11 a.m., the task force breached the compound perimeter. What they found was surreal. Worshippers kneeling in circles, humming in unison, fires burning in metal drums, children watching silently from the tree line, and over the loudspeakers, Elias's pre-recorded voice declaring, "You are not rescuers. You are the infected, and the fire has already begun." Then an explosion. A tripwire had been triggered. 2 operatives killed instantly. 3 more injured. The entire compound had been rigged, not just as a sanctuary, but as a martyr stage. As chaos erupted, 2 strike teams pushed toward the hangar. But when they reached the plane, it was empty. No pilots, no fuel lines, no passengers, and no Daniela. What they did find, strapped into seat 1A, was a recording device playing on loop. "You came too late." But then a voice, faint, raspy, from beneath the hangar floor. They broke through. Daniela, alive, barely, locked in a metal containment cell, buried underground. She was chained, sedated, and starved, but conscious. And as they carried her out, she whispered, "He knew you'd come. This was never about the plane." While the world watched the raid unfold live on news broadcasts, another plane had already taken off. Flight 263, a different aircraft, smaller, faster, had departed from a hidden jungle airstrip 60 kilometers east. Surveillance failed to catch it, but its transponder pinged briefly, just once, above international waters, before vanishing completely. On board? Unknown. Destination? Unknown. Passengers? Believed to include 6 high-ranking cult members and Elias Soares. Inside the jungle compound's chapel, carved into the wall behind the altar, were 6 words written in blood. "The fire needs no runway now." And in Elias's last recorded sermon, buried on an encrypted drive inside his former quarters, he says, "Flight 262 opened the door. Flight 263 will burn the world's illusions. The final flight needs no engine. It needs only belief." Daniela was immediately airlifted to a military hospital. Her first public statement, through her sister Marina, was brief but harrowing. He wanted to be God, but what he really became was a coward with followers and fire. She confirmed she saw others at the compound, many who willingly boarded the escape plane. Authorities now believe Elias is forming a new religious state, in exile, hidden and mobile, taking his cult wherever airfields will allow him. They're calling it the Church in the Sky. August 1st, 2025, 12:06 p.m. An unmarked package arrives at the home of investigative journalist Ana Morales. Inside is a single item, a boarding pass for Flight 264. Departure date, October 6, 2025. Passenger name, Ana Morales. Seat 13F. Taped to the back, a handwritten message. You're invited to witness the final ascension. Bring your camera. Elias Anna Morales, the award-winning journalist who helped expose the cult's financial web, receives a blood-stained envelope. Inside, a boarding pass with her full name, seat number 13F. Departure date, October 6, 2025. Location, undisclosed. But most disturbing is a handwritten note from Elias. You gave them the story. Now I'll give you the ending. Board, or I will choose someone you love to take your place. Interpol traced the paper stock to a print shop in Suriname. The camera footage was erased. Payment, in gold. Recovered fragments of Elias's personal scripture now reference a final witness, a person meant to observe and document the final ascension, so that even the unbelievers will see the glory of flame. Authorities believe Anna is that witness. Elias's logic? She was the one who started the media firestorm. Now, he wants her to burn with it. But there's more. A newer prophecy written in his blood-soaked handwriting reads, 3 flights for body, mind, and spirit. 262 cleansed. 263 escaped. 264 transcends. At 264, the sky will turn red. Since fleeing the raid, Elias's followers have gone dark, but not dormant. Through intelligence intercepts and leaks from cult defectors, the group has acquired 2 more aircraft, built mobile altars that fit inside cargo bays, formed a roaming commune operating out of small, unregulated airfields across French Guiana, Suriname, and the Pacific Islands. They call themselves the Church and Cloud. Recruitment videos have appeared on the dark web, offering escape from the corruption of Earth, ascension through the flame, and boarding passes to eternity at a price of $50,000 or more per seat. The cult has now become a nomadic death cult, moving by air, preaching mass salvation through destruction. And Elias, his voice returns in a new sermon. When the world burns, the camera will see. And in seeing, you will all believe. Banking analysts now confirm that Elias's church is being propped up by a network of rogue religious donors, tech billionaires obsessed with immortality, and a secretive private aviation firm known only as Seraphim Aviation Group. Seraphim operates under multiple aliases, with ties to arms dealers, human trafficking operations, and doomsday survivalist movements across Europe and Asia. The suspected link? A figure known as the Investor, an anonymous cult financier whose voice was heard in a leaked phone call. Let him burn the sky. It's the only way they'll listen. Interpol offers Anna Morales protective custody. She declines. If he's threatening to take someone I love, then the only choice I have is to board that flight. She begins preparing for what could be her final assignment, a live report from inside Flight 264. Should she manage to get aboard? But the real fear? There may not be a rescue this time. One cult defector told authorities. The first flight was to disappear. The second was to escape. But this third flight, this is the one where the sky catches fire. There is no fourth. September 30th, 2025, 8:44 p.m. Authorities intercept a secret transmission from an old control tower in French Guiana. A man's voice. Calm, measured, familiar. It's Elias. He says, I see you watching. Good. Watch closely now. The plane is ready. The flame is hungry, and the witness is packing her bags. Then silence, except for one final word whispered through the static. Ascend. The airfield was deep in the interior of Suriname. No official name. No lighting. No flight logs. At 3:13 a.m., a small white aircraft, Model ID scrubbed, was fueled and prepped. On board, 6 white-robed figures, 2 armed guards, 1 pilot, 1 chair, bolted to the center of the cabin, with a single seatbelt labeled, Witness. At 3:51 a.m., Anna Morales stepped out of a black SUV, wearing a hidden body cam, a tracking device, and a microphone patched to authorities. She said only one thing before boarding. If I don't come back, tell my story. And tell Daniela's kids that their mother was right all along. The following was transcribed from Anna's body cam, recovered from wreckage days later. Cabin doors close. No announcements, no flight crew, just chanting. They won't tell me where we're going. The windows are blacked out. I don't see the pilot. Just Elias's voice playing over speakers like he's here, but he's not. One of them handed me a journal. It's handwritten by Daniela. Anna flips through pages dated August to October 2025. In them, Daniela details her captivity and the truth about Flight 262. Daniela's journal reveals Flight 262 never disappeared by accident. The transponder was cut midair. Pilots were cult operatives. Passengers were sedated through tampered oxygen. Only 17 people survived the landing. The rest were murdered over days, executed in what Elias called sky trials. Daniela was kept alive as the gate. Elias believed her soul rebellion would allow the ascension of others through her suffering. Elias never boarded Flight 262. He watched from the jungle as the plane landed. He broadcast its crash, himself using military-grade tech. In her final entry, Daniela wrote, he said, "I would be remembered for how I screamed. I hope instead they remember how I fought." At 33,000 feet, Anna's footage captures a figure walking toward her from the cockpit. He wears a robe. No mask. No weapon. It's Elias soars. He sits across from her in silence, then says, "I burned every lie. Now you'll burn the truth. You'll be my witness." Anna's voice trembles. You don't want truth. You want a monument. You want to be remembered as a god. Elias replies, "No, I want to be remembered as the man who ended the world's noise." He then opens a small compartment beneath his seat. Inside, a trigger. At 4:39 a.m., radar detects Flight 264 diving. Fast, controlled, deliberate. At 4:42 a.m., the plane vanishes from radar over the South Atlantic. There is no explosion, no debris field, no radio distress. Just silence. 3 days later, a fishing vessel finds a life jacket and a waterproof container floating near the suspected crash site. Inside the container, Anna's body cam, Daniela's journal, and a final message from Anna, recorded just minutes before the dive. "If you're hearing this, I'm sorry." He hijacked belief. He turned fear into fuel. But the worst part, he didn't do it alone. There are more of them, not in the sky, on the ground. People in power who funded this, who want to see how far faith could bend before it broke. Daniela, your fight wasn't in vain. And if we disappear tonight, let it be the last time. Don't let them build another runway. The global fallout was immediate. Interpol arrests 3 religious financiers in Germany, Australia, and Texas, linked to Elias's offshore network. Seraphim Aviation is shut down. Its executives indicted for aiding in human trafficking and death cult logistics. The Church of Divine Glory is officially labeled a terrorist organization by the UN. But Elias's body? Never found. Neither were the others on board. On October 31st, 2025, 25 days after the disappearance of Flight 264, a tourist in Chile takes a photo of the sunrise over the Andes. In the corner of the image, a white aircraft. No tail number. No markings. Flying low, silent, vanishing into clouds. And beneath the photo, a caption added by the photographer, who hadn't seen what they captured. The sky looked like it was on fire. 129 passengers boarded. Then 6 more. Then 1. 1 woman fought. 1 told the world. 1 built a church aflame. They promised ascension. What they delivered was silence. Maybe that's what they wanted all along. The end, or is it? As of today, no flight has used the numbers 262, 263, or 264 again in any official aviation database. But reports of a ghost plane, white unmarked, appearing over the Amazon, the South Pacific, and the West African coast still persist. And some claim that late at night, on the right frequency, if you scan the airwaves, you can still hear Elias soars, preaching. The witness has spoken. Now believe. What are your thoughts on this case? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with more stories, where each case isn't just about crime, but also offers a lesson for life.